Peas in a Pod. Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody. It's March 29th. The date is correct this week. It's not like last week. You didn't even notice. Now you did. Everybody's okay. I'm Ryan Miller, and say hello to my little friend.
What's that?
Matt Amber.
Oh, wow. Just based on the movie, I thought you were going to say something about my facial hair, but nope.
Nope.
You decided
I'm
to
using all and most hackneyed movie lines to introduce you from now on.
I'll be back, Amber. Yeah, I love it.
That's a good one.
Yeah, great.
He had me at hello.
No, stop it.
Matt Amber.
Stop saying my name. Hello. I got a bad feeling about this, Amber.
I'm going to love this. I might just actually do it now. Hey,
what?
It's Book Club for Movies. We watch a movie every week. We talk about it every Thursday. You can watch it. You can talk about it too. Join the discussion.
Join the book club.
That was pretty good. We didn't even practice that. We've practiced none of this, in fact. Get ready.
If we practiced, it wouldn't come off as smooth and as interesting.
No, it would not.
This week's selection on the Book Club for Movies, the ever-exciting Agatha Christie story, Murder on the Orient Express, the 2017 edition, coming in at an hour and 54 minutes, directed by Kenneth Branagh, former director of movies such as Thor, Hamlet, Henry V, Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit.
Start with Thor.
Heck yeah.
Wait, he directed Jack Ryan?
Shadow Recruit. Yes.
He directed Jack Ryan.
Shadow Recruit.
Well, that's just weird.
Kenneth Branagh, the director of Jack.
Let that be the one we leave out.
Kenneth Branagh, the Shakespearean master, director of such films as Jack Ryan, Shadow Recruit.
No, that's worse. That's the opposite.
Written by Michael Green, screenplay by Michael Green, I should say. Writer of Logan, screenplay also for Blade Runner 2049, as previously mentioned, based on the book by the Queen of
Green Lantern. You can't.
Also Green Lantern.
Jack
Michael
Ryan
Green Lantern. Michael
on Kenneth
Green
Branagh's
Lantern.
resume. You better include Green Lantern. Wait, his name's actually Michael Green. And
Yeah,
Green Lantern?
Michael Green Lantern at the end.
Well,
yeah,
no freaking wonder.
Written by the Queen of Mystery, Agatha Christie. This flick stars Kenneth Branagh, Johnny Depp, Daisy Ridley, Josh Gad, Michelle Pfeiffer, Dame Judi Dench, Willem Dafoe, and Penelope Cruz.
Gosh dang it. Another movie where it might have just been easier to have said everyone right off the bat.
Yeah, like every actor in the world, and that's not it. There's a bunch of other actors that pop up throughout the movie that you'll recognize from other things. Those are the mains for the most part, and Kenneth Branagh playing the ever-present and best detective in the history of detectives, Hercule Poirot.
Do we have to say it that way for the entire show? It's going to be real hard.
Poirot. You just can't say Hercules.
Okay.
Just don't call him Hercules.
Hercule? Can we find a good Anglo
you can say
between?
Yeah, Hercule Poirot. His name isn't Hercules.
Poirot.
His name isn't Hercules Poirot. That's the point.
I could do Poirot.
Okay, fine.
Okay.
Go with that.
Done.
Our fast, brief, quick, into it synopsis is this. When an American is killed on a train after hiring a detective to solve his soon-to-be murder, the Orient Express becomes a train of villainy and questions. I don't have anything here.
What are you talking about? That's not all right. Was that a Matt Amberg original?
It came out that way. It was when an American is killed on a train after hiring a detective to solve his soon-to-be murder. Famed detective Hercule Poirot is tasked with discovering who the murderer is before the Orient Express can reach its final destination.
I like it. No, that's good. I like the nice nod to Final Destination at the end, too.
Yeah,
pretty cool.
I was bummed out that death, like Tony Todd's not in this movie. Why, out of everybody?
Are we sure about that?
Yeah, he was not the train. Oh. so I guess so. My first question out of this, jumping into, did you know the movie, the story before seeing this?
I would imagine I am like most people, where I have absorbed this story through osmosis by its multiple inspired works and or recreations throughout the years.
It is this is one of those detective stories that is incredibly prevalent in how the wrap up occurs.
Oh, is that the main? I feel like you've read the book before. You seem very steeped. You seem to know this thing backwards and forwards more.
No, I mean I've seen it multiple times, and I've seen the original multiple times. This is the first time I've seen this one.
Okay, this is the first time I've seen either. So I watched the original in tandem with this. Actually, I'm really interested now in what's actually in the story, like because the movies take such different approaches. So yeah, no. First time. I'm not very well up on the story, but now having seen it, I can obviously recognize the impact that it's had since, for sure.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it really comes down to, I think the ending is the part that's most aped as used, and because the ending is ostensibly the same for both movies. It
totally is. Yeah. And it's something that's you can kind of see coming. Like I said, it's been used so many times that. I mean, there was a point where I was like, that can't really be how this is going to end because that seems too obvious. But it was probably the first time it was done.
It was.
Yeah.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So let's get out in front of this because this is not well hidden, and it does inform the rest of the movie, especially after you know. The spoiler here for the end of the movie is the killer is everybody.
Right.
And ultimately, the point of the movie is the point of this movie is not necessarily Poirot figuring out who the killer is. I mean, that is the ultimate thrust, I suppose, for his character.
That's the plot, but it's not the theme.
But the point is definitely, with Poirot in particular, it's about learning balance, and not just balance in his personal life, but balance everywhere. Because he, throughout the movie, discusses that. It's something that comes up frequently. And one of the things that he has a hard time balancing is, for him, there is no black and white, or for him, there is no gray. It's black and white.
Yeah. And that's the line from the movie. Like he literally says it is black and white. This was an important beginning for me because it immediately turned me off the movie, not knowing the story so much to this degree as well. And the original, I don't know, like it's in the original, but it's not as front and center as it is with this one. Right. So there was a point at the beginning where, he talks about how there's only black and white. Like he has this thing about his eggs needing to be even, like just the same height before he eats them, and totally turned me off that freaking character. Like I'm like, I hate this dude. Like like everything's got to be exact like this. I have in my notes, this better be like a thematic or character development moment right here. If this just gets reaffirmed or I have to deal with this throughout the entire movie, I'm going to hate this whole thing.
And thankfully, it is a character development plot.
It is.
Point.
It is.
Yeah, it's really good.
And set up in a beautiful way, it turns out, which I didn't get right off the bat. The movie's gorgeous. Like it's flat out gorgeous. It's done digitally for the most part. You can kind of tell, but I think to great effect. Not in the way that I feel like with a Lucasfilm or something where I'm looking at a green screen or a digital backdrop or something like that. It's kind of dirtied up in a way, or they've added noise to it. In fact, I can tell you, like digitally speaking.
Yeah, right. So you noticed that too. Okay.
Yeah. But it comes out good. They've sharpened the image. I like the look, but also at the beginning when he's making all these statements about no black and white and my eggs have to be even and stuff like that, it's completely shot symmetrically.
Yeah,
like, right? Even from top down, from behind, like it's all just everything's perfectly balanced. And when you say it's a movie about him finding balance, like he subscribes to balance at the beginning, but it's one or the other. Like there's no gray, like you said. Yeah. So yeah.
And the one of the things you mentioned actually about the look of it, because I also agree. I think that some of the cinematography is great, and there's a moment early on that I'm always a fan of interesting ways to introduce an ensemble cast, especially when you have a cast that's going to mostly be in a very, very small area. And you got to remember, trains are not big. And if people film these trains, like you see shots on trains that are filmed and you can tell it's a set because a train isn't that wide. Like there's no way they're moving. And this is the way they do a lot of the camera tricks here, really smart. And one of those bits is when he's being introduced to everybody, he's not really being introduced. He's just getting on the train, and they have the camera on the outside of the train panning through as he's walking past everybody's rooms. You get a moment where he kind of bumps into every one of the main characters, every one of the people that he's going to be involved with, and it's just really nice.
Yeah. It's in a way it's a return to form for Branagh, because like I like seeing him do Thor. Like I thought that was a brilliant choice, right? Shadow Recruit, I don't know. But
I don't know.
I know Branagh from Hamlet. Like he was the dude that sold me on Hamlet, like literally.
And his interpretation is nuts. It's
awesome. I love it.
Good.
Like it's
beautiful.
huge and it's beautiful.
And it's very instead of being dour like every other version, it's bright. He elevates all the colors. Like everybody's wearing whites and yellows.
And that's Branagh. Like to me, anyways. Like these huge open spaces, like these attention to detail, but in a huge way type thing, I guess. And that might be very specific to Hamlet. I don't know. I guess I'm not super up on all of Branagh's work, anyways. But I feel like this movie, at the very least, is a return to form in that way, which is strange in that it does take place in a lot of compact areas or small compartments.
It's really funny because what I would say is go back and check out Henry V. So Henry V was my first introduction to Kenneth Branagh and Derek Jacobi, both of who are in this movie, and they've been working together forever doing Shakespeare stuff. I don't think Branagh has made a Shakespeare movie without Derek Jacobi in it.
Nice. Who does he play in this? I'm still getting...
Jacobi was the butler.
Oh, okay.
Was
he from Downton Abbey?
The older butler?
Beddoes.
Maybe that was...
Or Beddoes.
Beddoes. I think that was his name.
Maybe it's just because he was a butler, but I thought he was from Downton Abbey.
He's not from Downton Abbey.
The TV show about only butlers. Did you notice that?
It's true.
It's all that's in there.
It's about buttling.
Yeah. Buttling.
He played Edward Henry Masterman, who was he was the older gentleman. I want to say he was like the valet for the officer whose son or whose daughter is killed.
Cool. I like that guy. I will check out Henry V.
So the reason I mentioned Henry V though is because the story of Henry V is it's about wartime, but the way he films it's very small. Everything is like the castle scenes, everything is very, very confined.
Huh. Okay. So I probably don't have a handle on Branagh.
Well, no, because if you go back and look at some of his other stuff, some of the other things he did, they are those wide open landscape things. Hamlet's a good example where he brought a level of ornate openness to Hamlet, and in many respects, you can see that kind of influence from Hamlet in Asgard, which is why I loved that Thor movie, because I think that his creation of Asgard works and makes the most sense because he's so Shakespearean based.
And I'd say that's definitely the strong points, at least of the opening of this thing. The opening it's probably the hardest part of the movie, because I imagine he's trying to develop all the characters basically, and that's got to be the hardest part, because once we get going with this thing, it's very...
I think it moves at a clip. Like it does. It doesn't stop. It doesn't really stop. It's constant. It's constantly in motion.
And I have a lot less maybe complaints about that. The beginning seems a little on the nose at times. Maybe I am getting annoyed with the character of Poirot or something. I don't know, but it's a little bit of a rough start for me, but didn't necessarily mar the rest of the movie. Like once it does get going, it's pretty great. I like it quite a bit.
I dig it. I did note just jumping back very quickly to cinematography, that one of the first notes that I have written about this is like, it looks like a Guy Ritchie movie. I didn't know Guy Ritchie directed Murder on the Orient Express, because it did. It totally reminded me of the look that he gave London for Sherlock Holmes, which
sure.
not a bad thing, because I actually enjoy those movies. I think they're both very fun, and I think Branagh's look here, you do get that heavy digital look, but I think it's used to a decent effect here. And
yeah, I'm fine with
it. Also kind of comes off as they're not trying to make it passable. Like wherever they're doing heavy digital effects, it's like they decided we're going to go ahead and digital effect everything, so that
nobody can tell, and it'll be great.
And I think it was almost more like everybody will tell, but we'll go with it.
Let's just make it look freaking beautiful. Like they look very stylized, very artistic. Like you don't mind the digital so much because it's done well. Imagine that.
Yeah, and
that's the trick. We figured it out.
we got it. I also, the other thing that kind of got me on this one more so than the original that I remember anyways was the humor throughout the movie is sprinkled very lightly, but I think it's it's another one that's used to pretty good effect where it's laid in. You know, he's got a couple of really good barbs here and there.
I don't remember.
There were a couple of jabs in there and a couple of moments where I laughed out loud. Beth and I both laughed out loud. We thought that's really funny.
I can't remember.
Okay, so there's some really great moments with Branagh where Branagh is, for example, the first time he meets Johnny Depp.
Okay, I totally get. All right, Perot's a nerd. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, he is. He's
okay.
he's nerdy and goofy.
Totally get it. Yeah, the original is the same way actually too. That stays true, and it's Albert Finney in the original.
Right.
And yeah, he's still a nerd. Like that was one of my notes where they very different portrayals.
For sure.
Albert Finney is it's just very different. I might like Branagh's Poirot better, but
I like Branagh, but I also like Branagh a lot as an actor.
It's hard to compare. I mean, I like Finney, but
yeah, I thought Branagh was good in that he did bring some levity and some humor to the character where it was necessary, and there's a couple of moments where he kind of just has these very dry lines that hit.
Sorry, I'm getting bogged down though. Yeah, I can see you're right. Now you mentioned the levity coming from just that character also. Yeah, and there is some witty lines that I do remember. I remember them from the original as well, kind of peppered in there, it seems, and that's probably born out of the same thing. And yeah, Depp, strangely enough, does a great job. I mean, he's the guy who gets murdered. He's only in it for like 5 minutes, but like I like him better than the dude in the original Widmark, sorry. But yeah, Depp kind of nails it.
And that might be because I'm tired of him and I'm looking forward to him dying in movies.
Yeah, he plays a jerk.
Yeah, and he is. I mean, he does. He plays a great jerk. He was fine. He was solid. He was fine. He was good. He was.
I like how we just called a child murderer a jerk.
He is. He is a jerk.
How jerky can you be?
I mean,
come on.
Yeah, John Wayne Gacy, jerk.
That dude, no respect.
Somebody call Rodney Dangerfield. Depp was good in that role. I will tell you, I think the person that surprised me maybe the most for the lack that I thought there was going to be more there was Josh Gad. I for some reason thought he was going to be bigger in that role or something.
I mean, I don't want to keep going back to the original, but Josh Gad's role in the original is played by freaking Norman Bates.
Right, Anthony Perkins.
And strangely enough, he's given a lot of mother issues.
Well,
like I'm laughing out loud. I'm like, is this like this cannot be in the book? Did they just give him?
It had to start somewhere.
But yeah, Josh Gad's character is kind of shortchanged in that way. I think he still does a great job, and I think with a movie like this, we're going to get into performances. Like this is very much character driven,
and for the amount of people in it, it is. I think that's one of those things where you have there's one sequence in particular where everybody shines, but after that sequence happens, you don't really get you get. I'm sorry. There's two sequences where everybody shines, but after that, in between, a lot of those characters very much so go by the wayside, and you kind of get focused on. You're focused mostly on Poirot. Yeah. And it is mostly about Poirot's story. It is about him. But sure. But when the reveal kind of comes around and you find out that the reason everybody is involved in this murder and everybody kills the Johnny Depp character, literally everybody kills him. They've got it to a point laid out where the bellhop that's working the doors wakes everybody up who's in first class. All of the people in first class are somehow connected to the little girl that was murdered they were family members. They worked with the mother. They worked with the father. Some connection. You get this moment where they're kind of going through and sharing what happened. And that explanation and that sequence where I referred to it as the Last Supper because there's that shot where it's very like clearly the Last Supper sequence.
Well, do you know why that's important to me anyways?
Please.
It's asymmetrical.
Perfect.
Like we're getting to the end. You were going there. Okay. See, look at us. Peas in a pod.
So you get that moment, and there's this where it kind of goes through everybody, and Michelle Pfeiffer, who I think may have been
she's good,
so minimal in this movie, but that last sequence again just kills it. I think she's outstanding in the explanation and the decision to try to kill herself and not let anybody take that blame. Really well done.
She's good, but man, I don't know if I ruined myself by watching the original after, or if I should have watched it before or whatever. But her part's played by Lauren Bacall in the freaking.
Which by the way, I don't know if you made the connection, but the outfit she's wearing when she kills Johnny Depp is a throwback to Lauren Bacall. That's
okay.
The head scarf
and that stuff that I missed.
The head scarf and the robe, not from that movie, but there's some famous photos of Lauren Bacall in that basic outfit.
That's cool.
Total throwback to her. Okay. The during that moment, this kind of goes back to a little bit of the cinematography too. I think there's the sequence where they during the Last Supper, they're showing what they did to him, and I was surprised at like the brutality that they put into that. That was way more. It was way more of a brutal thing to see. Like you're not getting a bunch of visuals. It's not gory. It's just a very stark black and white, upbeat like music. It's got like really nice, beautiful music in the background, and
I'm walking on sunshine.
And yeah, it's Bruce Willis comes in, and it's look who's talking. But they're like the way it was filmed and the faces that they gave everybody, the look on everybody's faces, which was just really well done. It was really, to me, it was very brutal, very instructive of like, you got to see a variety of people being angry, being sad, going through basically every emotion. And that's what they kind of all are. They're kind of, each step of grief, essentially.
Sure, yeah, in a way, and it's one of the stronger moments in the new one, I think, and one of the weaker moments in the old one has an issue with flashbacks. I think they use like a weird like sliding door to put in flashbacks, so I don't think they need to be. And the old one's directed by Sidney Lumet, by freaking like he's one of my favorites. Like another one we left out of our greatest directors of all time conversation. Like that dude, 12 Angry Men, yeah,
Dog Day,
everything. But that last scene, they do kind of go back and show it in flashback, and it's, I don't know, like the emotions are weird with each of them. I feel like part of the charm of the older one is that it is, and by bringing in some of those stars, like freaking Ingrid Bergman plays the. Oh man, okay. I don't care what I was saying, but
wow.
Do you remember the Ingrid Bergman scene in the old one?
I don't remember much of the old one.
Okay. Ingrid Bergman plays the Swedish, the woman played by Penelope Cruz, who, by the way, actually one of my favorites in the new one. Actually,
really,
Penelope Cruz is super good.
She was very good.
Her. But Ingrid Bergman plays her in the old one, and me and my wife were watching this thing together, and she comes in the train. And she comes into the room in the train, walks down the corridor, sits in the chair, face to face with Pierrot. They go through their conversation, and about 3 minutes into this thing, I'm like, are you kidding me? My wife's like, what? Like she's thinking, like the I left the stove on or something like that, and there's a fire in the house. I'm like, I'm like rewinding it. She's like, did you miss that whole thing? I'm like, no, they haven't cut this thing for at least 3 minutes already. So I rewinded all the way to the beginning, and I timed this thing out. That shot goes on for 5 minutes, almost 5 whole minutes, which sounds stupid.
No, that's like, especially as an actor, if you like,
it's insane, and it's amazing. Like that performance, which I later found out she won a freaking Academy Award for. Obviously,
makes sense.
It's so good because it's. Not only do you get to see that whole thing in its entirety, but it opens up this world, and you know this better than I do, where 90% of what there is her, like her and Finney just playing off each other. Like there's no editing to flub or kind of, not that editing's flubbing. I'm an editor, so it definitely is. But
SerialHitBoys.com.
But man, it's just a whole nother thing when you have to watch that thing unfold by performance alone.
Sure.
And it's amazing. Like by the end of that, I'm like, I can't believe that. My wife's still looking at me like I'm weird.
It is
somehow.
It's funny. There are, it's something that I think a lot of people just won't notice. You don't.
I won't half the time. Yeah, no.
Those long tracking shots, and then considering like it's another thing that you kind of forget that how many shots of that were done. There's more than one take of it, and then so you have the actors who have to reset, get their mind back to where they were. You've got the director who's got to get all the lighting, everything back. Like there's so much that goes into one scene, and a scene that goes on for 5 straight minutes.
It's nuts.
That's a lot.
And there's no little like camera movement. Like it follows her across the room, goes in close while they talk, shifts when they get to a kind of a turning point in that conversation. And then when she gets up, it comes back out and follows her back out, all in the same. It's so great.
It's technical things like that when you learn a little bit more about how movies are made, you start finding out just how impressive that is, and going, wow.
And the new one has some of that. Like I did take a note at one point that was like, man, they're doing a lot of long takes here. Like it's not quick cuts by any stretch of the imagination. I don't remember anything like the Bergman one. Like, no, unfortunately, I now want to go back and watch it again for this reason, and I know I can't. So,
that is something that doesn't surprise me with Branagh either, though, because of the Shakespeare thing.
Oh yeah, because his complete reverence for both crafts.
Yeah, and he loves the monologue. He's a big fan.
Yeah.
I really liked the movie. I thought it was really, really good.
Yeah.
Performances, nobody really put in a bad performance. I thought everybody was pretty good. For you, you mentioned Penelope Cruz. I mentioned Michelle Pfeiffer. I think the other one that goes, the other person that really elevated the movie, and again, really small part, but her part super integral to how everything kind of rolls out was Dame Judi Dench. And
she's good. Yeah.
You kind of go into this going, okay, well, boy, when does Dame Judi Dench phone it in? She doesn't.
Are you trying to say she's good?
Yeah, she is freaking M, and she puts in all the effort in the world for that crap. Okay, look, I think the 2, maybe 3 people that were kind of underutilized the most were Willem Dafoe was just criminally underused, but he always is.
Well, his character in the original too, and I don't know, so maybe it's coming from the books. Also, like comes in as like the last guy, and he's easily the guy least in the movie.
Right. And the other person was Daisy Ridley. Like she has a couple of good moments, but she's just not used enough to like one of the hard parts about that character is that she's one of the first people he meets.
Mm-hmm.
And as such, like the way she's described as the governess, it's like, I mean, she's ostensibly she was a nurse, she was a nanny. And I guess I felt like for her character, especially when you get the reveal that she's the one who she was in the room when the kid was kidnapped in the first place, I kind of thought there was going to be something else to like more to her. And there just wasn't.
I think it was more a victim of just the kind of ensemble thing, because funnily enough, in the original, she's played by Vanessa Redgrave and is given just about nothing. Like she's Connery's love interest, and he kind of is given all of the stuff.
Yeah. Okay. So,
but yeah, so she's actually beefed up for the newer one a little bit. Like especially the exchanges between her and Poirot, like I feel like are way more weighted, and she's given like she's a much more important, because she withholds information smartly from Poirot. Like she's playing the game almost more than anybody else, I guess I would say.
Probably, and well, also because I think that she's also the youngest of the group too, so she has the most to lose.
Okay, yeah. And I think there's actually a lot more little touches like that in the new one that kind of make me like it a little better than the old one.
Sure.
Which seems weird. Like the old one, they are two very different things, but the old one has just enough rough edges, and it's fun in different ways. Like it's fun because you want to see Lauren Bacall. I mean, everybody nails their performance except for Widmark, like I said, who I don't know if he was. I never heard of him before this thing, so I don't know. But he plays Ratchet, so it's the smallest part. Anyways, he's his. That's the scene where he gets poisoned is classic in its own way.
It's the good classic poisoning death. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the Pee Wee Herman's death in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Yeah, yeah. But for that reason, yeah, the new one, I think I like it better in a way. Like it's in a way a more fully realized telling of that story. And we might as well get to the ending, tying up that theme where, making it about Poirot's coming to terms with not everything's in black and white ends up being done really well and in a way that completely turned me around. Yeah. Whereas at the beginning of the movie, I'm like, I hate this dude.
Yeah.
Like making it about that and how, it's might be playing to me because the whole theme ties up with, no, there are gray areas and, Poirot has to tell a lie. There's two versions of the story. He knows the truth. He says the truth, but he tells the cops when they pull into the station that he tells them the more plausible thing, whether it was gangsters did it or something like that. And that seems to be the one that everybody runs with, but it's done in a way that's like, there are gray areas, like you've got to learn to live with this. Like, the world isn't as you thought it was, Mr. Super Detective anyways.
Right. I think this kind of just popped into my head because it's exactly what I was trying to phrase earlier and what you just phrased basically. But Poirot has to learn to balance imbalance.
Sure.
It's not about for him. Like we've said, it's black and white. But that's not life, and you've got to learn to balance.
The world isn't balanced, man.
Right.
The video games are balanced if you're lucky. The world is not.
No, it's about.
But it's done in a good way because it's kind of
totally,
especially at the end where they have to give the nod to Death on the Nile,
which I love.
And he does ask the guy to straighten his tie, so we get the feeling that we get this character again. I don't know about Death on the Nile. Does he? Do we get, is it just another Poirot story, another detective story, or do we get a changed Poirot for that one?
No, I mean, he's always that way, but I guess it's just not as, maybe it's not as prevalent, but also Death on the Nile is one that I don't remember that nearly as well, because I don't think I ever read that one. And I know I've only seen the movie maybe once or twice.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Either way, looking forward to it. I think the way the theme is tied up at the end of Murder on the Orient Express is done really well and it's a pretty good movie.
I agree. Murder on the Orient Express is going to get
38 stars.
38 stars out of 44. Pretty good.
It's about right.
Pretty good, everybody. That was this week's Book Club for Movies. Next week's Book Club for Movie selection, we're gonna dig a little further back.
A to B on this one.
A to B, yeah. Gotta go a little bit
successor.
further back. Make sure you've got some ibuprofen with you. You're gonna want something to calm your head, bring it down. We're gonna be watching the David Cronenberg directed, Michael Ironside starring head explosion vehicle Scanners.
All right.
Let us know what you think. You know what you can do?
Shocker. Never seen it before.
You've never seen it. Here's the best part. After you've watched it, you can go ahead and send us an email, podcast@bookclubformovies.com.
I'm guessing you've seen this one before.
Scanners I've seen a multitude of times. I own this movie, and I will be happy to rewatch it 1,000 times over. It's a good one. A lot of fun.
Excellent. Now we're going to do the rest of the show because we watch more than one movie a week. If you can believe it. Matt, what did you watch?
I watched a whole bunch of movies this week, but I'm only going to talk about one in particular.
I saw your list.
Yeah, I did. I did watch a ton of bunny-related movies on the vernal equinox. We watched Donnie Darko, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Right. We watched Harvey and The Witch. And
such Passover classics as
Night of the Lepus. But the movie that I'm going to talk to you about is none of those movies. It is the movie Observe and Report, written and directed by Jody Hill.
Oh, man.
Starring Seth Rogen, Michael Pena, Anna Faris, Ray Liotta, and with a nice, tiny, short, wonderful, perfect cameo by everybody's favorite, the man, the myth. I can't remember his name. But you know what I'm talking about.
Michael Ironside? No, you just said that. Kim Coates.
Close.
I already used that one today. Bob Odenkirk. Bob Odenkirk.
Danny McBride. This movie is it's really, really funny. it's also really, really, really black comedy. Like it is. This is not funny in the way that like a standard comedy is. It's very dark. The humor is very dark. Seth Rogen and Michael Pena. Michael Pena steals every scene in this movie, by the way, which he does in like every other movie too.
He's a good dude.
Best part of Ant-Man is Michael Pena, and I love Ant-Man. Seth Rogen and Michael Pena are mall security guards. And Anna Faris works at the mall, and a guy that is a serial flasher has been showing everybody his dinger. And finally, Seth Rogen is the head of mall security. He's just he's just angry, but he's dumb. But he's not really dumb, but he's kind of dumb, but he's also like manic depressive. So he's trying to figure out who this guy is. They bring in the cops, which just makes him mad. And the cop is Ray Liotta, and he's hitting on like all of the women that work at the mall. While basically it becomes this back and forth between Ronnie the security guard and the cop that's super surly and angry, and it's really funny. And there are some absolutely ridiculous sequences in the movie. If you like, this is a movie that very, very much so is, if you like the things that Jody Hill and Danny McBride do, this is Jody Hill writing Danny McBride style comedy, but for Seth Rogen. So it's like Seth Rogen's very much so Seth Rogen, but this is like lots of F-bombs, lots of like Seth Rogen up in the face, doing the things that you imagine Danny McBride doing in every movie he makes now.
Who directs it?
Jody Hill.
Jody Hill. Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah. So again, Jody Hill's, if you like his stuff, which is The Foot Fist Way, Vice Principals on HBO, Eastbound and Down, that's probably the one that he's most remembered for.
All right.
That's him, man. And this is it's a funny freaking movie, but it is a very dark comedy.
Okay. So I've got to tell you about this movie. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
I'm in film school. I have one friend. I have probably more than one friend, but I have one friend. We wrote a screenplay together, and this thing, we took screenwriting at different times, so it kind of bounced back and forth between us. Mm-hmm. We, at the time, were security guards at a mall, and our first screenplay was revelatory because there weren't any movies about security guards yet, and certainly not any black comedies like ours was, I remember we had just seen About Schmidt, Curb Your Enthusiasm was pretty good at the time. So we're like, it has like shades of this. Like we made a DVD because we had a table read, and we gave them like some of these shows or clips from these certain shows to be like, this is the feel we're going for, right? And like I said, this thing bounces back and forth between us. I get it. I'm finally taking screenwriting, and I bring it to that class, and screenwriting is basically you bring in your pages and you kind of workshop it. My screenwriting class was, at least, it was great. Best experience of all of film school. But
all right,
then freaking Paul Blart comes out, and we're like, okay, no, we can still do this. This is okay. This is completely different. Nobody saw this. Nobody liked it anyways. Like ours is very toned down. It's a guy who gets fired. He's coming to deal with. Then Observe and Report comes out, and I'm just like, dang it. So I still have that stupid thing. I never gave it to anybody. It's been through like.
Was your friend Jody Hill?
No, I don't know. See, I don't know Jody Hill well enough. Now I'm wondering if he was at the table read or something.
He stole it from you. Kill him or just get money from him.
Anyways, that's
coming soon. The Book Club for Movies produced Book Club for Movie by Ryan. It's called Security Guard.
So tell me if you did a screenplay in your career that's eerily similar to the movies I watched this week.
Ready? Sure.
The first one I don't want to spend more than a second on was High Crimes.
I did not write that screenplay.
Okay. Ashley Judd, Jim Caviezel, Morgan Freeman, not Along Came a Spider.
Sounds exactly like something that would have gone direct to video.
Oh man, you're more the only scene I want to talk about in this movie, which is just completely, you don't need it. It starts out really weird too. It's just a weird vibe. Everything's weird, and then it's basically she's a lawyer who's trying to. It's kind of Anatomy of a Murder, honestly. Which that's the movie you want to go watch. Just go watch that one.
Just
actually,
turn that on. All right.
but she's trying to prove her husband, Jim Caviezel, was innocent. It's a military court because he had a different identity. He ends up being guilty. I don't care. Don't watch it. But there's a moment where, people are trying to kill her because she's trying to prove that her husband's innocent. There's a moment where she's driving along and a van opens up the doors behind her and starts throwing oil on top of her car. Mm-hmm. So her vision's completely obscured. She doesn't stop driving. Like, she never puts on the brakes.
In fact, she speeds up and says, "I'll show you." And then she starts ramming into them.
She starts swerving like, "Oh no, what are we going to do?" And me and my wife are both like, "Stop, just stop driving. Don't just stop. Just put on the brakes. You're done. It's over. Like, slow down. You don't even have to put them on hard. Just like slowly come to a stop." And you're done. But she like starts swerving and then she rolls the thing and then it lands in a river and we're like, and my wife turns to me, she's like, "Well, that worked out better than those guys could have possibly imagined." And then we finished watching the movie for some reason. The movie I actually want to talk about, though, and I think you've already talked about this somewhat recently, so we don't have to get too deep into it, but I never gave it its due, it turns out. Hellboy 2, Golden Army.
Yeah, I love it.
I think I might like it better than the first one.
I definitely like it better than the first one.
I like the first one.
I like the first one a lot.
It has that newness about it, and it's got less of a budget than Golden Army for sure. Mm-hmm. But I still like it. But Golden Army is kind of one of those ones where I feel like they've improved on every single thing. Like the newness might not be there as much. It's not the first time you've seen Hellboy anymore.
Right.
But just everything about it is better, basically, Yeah.
Well, I mean, they kind of did a refresh on the characters, so you got more out of that. The downside being that they do lose John as a character, but they gained the Doctor, who I
freaking love. He's so good.
Played by what's his name?
Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah. And on top of that,
it's just a German accent, so of course, why wouldn't?
And on top of that, though, that whole story is so much more. It's more impactful because it's almost right away that Hellboy is going to be caught in a situation that he there's no win for him. It's a no win situation. He either and it's brought to a head during his fight with the final. The last, no, not the prince, not Nuala and the prince. It's brought to a head when he has to fight the final elemental. He kills the earth elemental.
Oh right, yeah.
And Prince, I think it's Nuala. Prince Nuala says, you have to make a decision. Do you kill the last of its kind because you can and because you think you need to, or do you let it live, and do you let the fairy tales exist? And Hellboy obviously makes his choice, and it's a great movie because it totally is.
It's a great moment. Yeah,
it's a great moment.
Really good moment. Yeah,
that's a powerful moment for something, because not only are you killing the last thing, in killing it causes growth everywhere. Like everywhere it dies,
things sprouting up and greenery.
Yeah, and it's this
really beautiful.
It's this beautifully sour moment,
His head that he just headshot turns into this huge, gorgeous kind of flower. Type blooming thing. Yeah, no, awesome moments in there. And I do like the story. That might be something I relegate to the first one a little bit more.
I like the first story
better. But the first one's the origin story, so it's kind of it's more driven too. I think the first one, because it knows where it's going, because in a ways maybe it is formulaic in that way, but I think it's not, because it's such a cool origin story too, with Lenin Rasputin and all this stuff. It's super awesome. But the Golden Army does have those moments that I think the first one didn't have. It's able to take a little bit more of that time, and it is when it does kind of dip into the origin of Hellboy are kind of the more interesting parts of it, because the whole story about the prince coming back and the Golden Army is kind of, it's not driving in the way the origin story is driving.
Sure.
And the more impactful moments in Golden Army are when Moana, Prince Moana is whispering in his ear, while he's shooting that thing in the head, or when he gets the spear in his side and they have to take him to the monster to heal him, and he gives Liz the choice of saving him But by the way, he will fulfill his destiny, which is that. I mean, that's the theme of Hellboy. You know, like you can save him now, but it'll cost you humanity, type thing. You know,
he's constantly going to bring about the end of the world,
right?
Which is part of the why he part of the reason he shaves off his or files down his horns.
Sure.
So he's not reminded by it.
But it's great.
I liked it, and it was it's Prince Nuada and Princess Nuala.
Ah, yes, so, that's what did I say?
I don't know. I'm just letting you know.
That's all I got, though. That's all we got. That's it.
That's it. That's been the Book Club for Movies, everybody. Thanks for stopping by. Remember to check out next week's Book Club for Movies selection, Scanners. It's gonna gross you out. It's gonna be sick. It's gonna be disgusting.
Will it?
It might. And then let us know what you thought. Hit us up, podcast@bookclubformovies.com.
Yeah, Twitter, Facebook, doesn't matter, whatever. And when you do, important, you think you're pretty cool.
We love you.